The derelict station drifted like a ghost through the graveyard of a dying star. Its fractured hull glimmered faintly in the amber light, every panel scarred by radiation, every surface whispering of centuries gone silent. Rian Mercer's ship, the Aegis Dawn, coasted alongside the wreck, thrusters murmuring softly as if afraid to disturb the stillness. Inside the cockpit, Rian's face was lit by a dull orange glow. Sweat shimmered on his temple despite the cold. He stared through the cracked viewport, eyes locked on the structure ahead, an ancient orbital relic older than the human expansion itself. Its architecture was wrong, almost fluid, like someone had tried to sculpt machinery out of bone and light. Atmospheres thin, but stable, his AI companion reported, its voice a calm whisper through the comms. Radiation within tolerable limits. No active power signatures. Rian adjusted his helmet, voice steady but low. Then it's dead, just like everything else out here. He'd been searching for months, chasing rumors of lost alien technology, of relics older than recorded memory. But nothing he found had ever spoken back. This station, though this felt different, felt awake. He docked manually, feeling the tremor of metal against metal as the airlock sealed. The hiss of pressure equalizing echoed through his suit, followed by silence so deep it almost hummed. When the doors slid open, stale air brushed against him, carrying a faint metallic tang, old blood, maybe, or decayed circuitry. The corridor beyond was narrow and curved, built for something taller, slimmer than human design. Strange symbols spiraled along the walls, pulsing faintly with residual bioluminescence. They looked like veins, glowing in patterns that almost resembled heartbeat rhythms. Rian raised his wrist light. "I've seen alien ruins before," he murmured. "But not like this." "Recording active," the AI said. "Proceed with caution." His boots crunched against a thin layer of crystalline dust, frozen condensation that glittered like powdered glass. Each step echoed faintly, swallowed by the endless corridors that twisted and looped like the inside of a living organism. He passed skeletal machinery fused into walls, consoles built from organic metal that seemed to breathe with the faint hum of residual energy. Occasionally, a pulse of light would flicker down a conduit, as if reacting to his presence. Then, deep within the core chamber, he saw it. The pod. It stood at the center of a massive room lined with mirrors of obsidian black glass. Starlight from the dying sun filtered through a fractured viewport, spilling across the floor like molten amber. The pod was encased in a transparent shell, crystalline yet veined with living tissue, and inside floated a figure. She was motionless, an alien girl, humanoid, but ethereal. Her skin glowed faintly like moonlight underwater, and thin silver filaments trailed from her temples, merging with the pod's inner wiring. Her eyes were closed, her body suspended in a slow rotation, strands of pale hair drifting weightlessly around her face. Rian froze, his breath caught in his throat, fogging the inside of his visor. At the base of the pod, etched in hundreds of languages, some human, some alien, and many unknown, was the same message, repeated again and again. "Do not wake her." Rian's flashlight trembled slightly as he crouched to examine the engraving. The words shimmered faintly, glowing with a cold blue light as if the letters were still alive. His AI broke the silence. "Thermal readings indicate life signs. She's in stasis. Cryogenic systems are active but barely. Estimated age of the structure, 3,700 years, give or take." Rian blinked. "That's impossible." "Impossible," the AI repeated softly, "but true." He circled the pod, taking in the ancient equipment. Smooth, grown-looking, not built. Every inch of the structure seemed to breathe. The hum under his boots matched a faint rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. And then, just for a moment, he thought he saw her chest move. He stepped back, heart pounding. "AI confirm," was that. "No external movement detected," it interrupted, though its tone wavered. However, her neural energy levels just spiked. Briefly, the pod emitted a faint hiss. Frost bloomed across the glass in branching patterns, forming shapes that almost looked like words. Rian leaned closer, and there, through the mist, appeared a symbol. Not alien. Human. A warning triangle. The universal symbol for containment breach. Rian stumbled back, hand hovering near his sidearm. Why would an alien cryopod use a human warning sign? Perhaps, the AI whispered, because she's not entirely alien. The words sank into him like a knife. He took another step closer, gaze fixed on her serene face. She looked peaceful, almost heartbreakingly so, like a statue carved from living light. But behind that peace was something else. Something that made the air feel heavier. Guilt. The pod's monitor flickered. Lines of alien code appeared and vanished, followed by a phrase translated by his suit. Cycle 118 terminated. Sleeper status. Protected. Guardian protocol pending. Guardian. Rian frowned. Protected from what? The AI hesitated before answering. Or from whom? He moved to a nearby console, brushing layers of frost from its surface. The interface reacted instantly, lighting up with spirals of alien glyphs that shifted and reformed into language he could almost understand. It was like the station wanted him to read. A log appeared, half corrupted, half translated. She remembers. Too much. The others fell to the silence. The humans demanded her containment. She carries the memory of the war. Rian's throat went dry. The war. Unclear, said the AI. But if the humans were involved, this predates the Exodus. That meant before humanity even left Sol. Before interstellar contact. He turned slowly back toward the pod. The girl floated still, serene, untouched by time. But the words "do not wake her" seemed to burn brighter now, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. He took a breath. "Who are you?" he whispered, not expecting an answer. But then, faintly, so faintly he thought he imagined it, a whisper brushed through the comms. A voice. Female. Soft. Echoing. "Please don't." Rian froze, eyes wide. AI, replay that. No transmission received. I heard her. Negative. No external audio detected. His chest tightened. Maybe it was just fatigue. Too many days alone. Too many nights chasing ghosts across dead stars. But something about that voice, it wasn't fear. It was sorrow. He knelt beside the pod again, palm resting gently on the glass. It was cold, almost painfully so. Beneath his glove, something pulsed. Faint, but there. A slow, rhythmic heartbeat that synced with his own. Then, the engravings flared once more, bright enough to blind him. A surge of energy rippled through the floor, lights flickering alive across the station's walls. The air filled with a deep, vibrating hum as ancient systems rebooted. The pod's surface began to thaw, droplets sliding down like tears. Rian. The AI warned sharply. Power surge detected. You've triggered something. But the warning came too late. The girl's eyes opened. Silver. Luminescent. Bottomless. For a single heartbeat, he stared into them. And in that instant, he wasn't in the chamber anymore. He was standing in a burning field beneath a red sky, surrounded by bodies, human and alien alike, while a voice whispered in his mind, "You shouldn't have found me." Then everything went black. When Rian came to, his helmet's internal systems were flickering. His oxygen meter blinked erratically, the faint hum of life support struggling to stabilize. Every light on the station pulsed like a heartbeat, deep, slow, synchronized. The sound reverberated through the floor, up his spine, and into his skull. He groaned, forcing himself upright. AI status. The response came fragmented, distorted. Subsystems rebooted power core online at 37%. Unknown source of activation detected. Rian blinked through the haze, focusing on the cryopod. The frost that once coated its surface had melted into streaks of condensation, revealing the alien girl's face clearly now. Her eyes were closed again, but faint blue light danced beneath her skin, tracing delicate veins along her temples. She was glowing, faint but rhythmic, like her body had become part of the station's energy grid. He took a shaky step closer. The hum in the air intensified with every movement he made. It wasn't just the station coming alive, it was responding to him. Her vitals, Rian murmured. Check them. The AI flickered back online, its tone softer than before. Scanning, neural activity stable. Cryogenic suspension still active. However, it hesitated. Her neural patterns are unusual. Rian frowned. Define unusual. They match human cerebral wave signatures. The words froze him in place. That's not possible. She's not human. No, the AI replied quietly. But she thinks like one. He stared at her, unable to look away. There was something hauntingly familiar about her expression. A serenity that looked practiced, as though she'd been dreaming of peace for 1,000 years but never believed it. He hesitated, then slowly removed his glove, pressing his bare palm to the glass. The effect was instant. The pod pulsed beneath his touch, a deep vibration that resonated through his bones. The station's lights flared white, circuits along the walls igniting like veins of fire. Symbols across the floor reconfigured themselves into spirals that rotated outward from the pod, pulsing in time with his heartbeat. Rian, the AI barked. Biofeedback surge detected. Your vitals are syncing with hers. He tried to pull his hand away, but couldn't. His palm was stuck, fused to the glass by a web of living light. His mind filled with static, flashes of images that weren't his own. He saw a battlefield beneath a green sky, towers of crystal burning, a child crying inside a metal cradle as soldiers, human soldiers, dragged something screaming into a containment pod. Then another flash, the girl, awake, reaching toward him, whispering through static. You promised you'd never come back. He tore his hand free, gasping. The glow faded instantly, leaving only silence and the soft hiss of the cryosystem. He stumbled back, clutching his wrist. The skin beneath his glove burned with a faint blue mark, the same spiral pattern that had appeared on the floor. What the hell was that? He breathed. The AI hesitated. Data transfer. Partial. Whatever she is, she recognized your biosignature. She recognized me? Rian muttered, heart racing. I've never been here before. The AI's voice dimmed. Unless she's reacting to something in your genetic code. Your family line. Rian swallowed hard. His great-grandfather had served in the early wars of expansion, long before humans made peace with the coalition species. But this place, it predated even that. Unless the legends were true, that humanity had reached for the stars once before and failed. A sudden thud echoed through the chamber. Rian spun, weapon drawn. The sound had come from the far side of the hall. A panel had fallen loose, revealing a tunnel lined with bioluminescent threads. The pulsing rhythm now seemed to call to him from within it, like a heartbeat trying to lure him deeper. Rian, the AI warned. Movement detected beyond that corridor. Something's waking up. He kept his weapon raised, backing toward the pod. The pulse quickened, vibrating through the floor. The alien girl's eyelids fluttered, just once. A single twitch that made his stomach drop. Is she waking? No, but her neural output just tripled. Whatever this place is, she's its core. The walls around him began shifting, panels retracting, exposing veins of glowing crystal. The entire chamber was rearranging itself, like a living organism reacting to infection. And he was the infection. A deep, resonant voice echoed suddenly through the air. Ancient, mechanical, and sorrowful. Guardian presence confirmed. Cycle incomplete. Protocol requires confirmation of intent. Rian's pulse hammered. AI. Did you hear that? Voice transmission confirmed. Source unknown. The voice interrupted, louder this time, vibrating the air. Do you intend to wake her? Rian's throat went dry. I don't even know what she is. Then you are already too late. The hum stopped. Silence. Then, a low rumble, like the growl of a dying beast. The temperature dropped sharply. Frost began crawling up the walls again. Fast, spreading like a living thing. Power drain detected. the AI warned. Cryocore collapsing. Rian turned toward the pod, the lights within it flickering wildly. The alien girl's vitals were spiking off the charts. For the first time, her hand twitched inside the chamber, fingers curling slightly as though reaching toward him. Rian, the AI shouted. The containment field is destabilizing. He reached for the console, trying to stabilize power flow. Come on, stay with me. A pulse of blue light burst from the pod, throwing him back against the far wall. His visor cracked, the air filled with the sharp tang of ozone. When the glare faded, Rian saw the message etched across the pod's glass had changed. The words "Do not wake her" were gone, replaced by a new line, written in glowing human script. You remember her name. Rian's breath caught. Her name? What name? Before he could move, the pod flickered again and faintly, from somewhere inside his own comms, came a whisper. A girl's voice. Rian Mercer. He froze, every nerve in his body turning to ice. AI? His voice cracked. How does she know my name? There was no response. Only the rhythmic hum returning, softer now, almost like breathing. And then the lights dimmed, one by one, until only the pod remained glowing. Inside it, the girl's eyes opened just a fraction. A single tear floated upward, crystallizing in the cold air. Rian stood motionless, staring at her through the frost. Somewhere deep within the station, a new system powered up. The sound of heavy mechanisms echoed like distant thunder. Whatever had been asleep here, it wasn't just her. It was everything. The chamber felt heavier now, as if the air itself remembered something painful. The hum had settled into a steady rhythm, pulsing faintly through the metal walls like the slow heartbeat of a dying god. Rian stood near the pod, breathing hard, his cracked visor reflecting the soft blue light that still shimmered from within the glass. The girl's eyes were closed again, but the mark she had burned into his mind, her voice whispering his name, still echoed there, refusing to fade. He swallowed, steadying his breath. AI, he muttered, voice rough. What's our situation? The system came online with a faint buzz. Minimal stability restored. Power draw consistent with a slow reactor ignition. I estimate full system reactivation within 2 hours. Reactivation of what? Rian asked warily. That, the AI said softly, depends on what you woke. He stared at the pod, jaw tightening. What I woke. He didn't want to believe that phrase, but deep down, he already knew the truth. This wasn't a station anymore. It was a memory, a living archive, and she was at its core. A faint light flickered at the far end of the chamber, a holographic terminal sputtering to life, ancient but somehow aware of him. Rian moved toward it slowly, boots echoing against the frozen metal. The console responded to his presence, symbols unraveling across its surface in spiraling streams of light. Can you translate that? Partially, the AI replied. The language appears to be a fusion of alien and early Terran linguistic roots. I can approximate. The hologram stabilized into a single glowing panel of text, broken, flickering, and fragmented like static. Words blinked in and out of existence, forming half-sentences that sent chills down his spine. Cycle 2049. The sleeper remains intact. The others gone. Memory corruption spreading. Human code fragments unstable. Rian frowned. Human code fragments? That sounds like... The AI finished for him. Artificial DNA. Genomic data merged between species. He stared at the projection. So the girl, she's not alien or human. She's both. Another log flashed into view, this one distorted by heavy interference. We made her, to remember, to end the cycle. Every war, every extinction locked in her mind. But she dreams too deeply. She carries the weight of all who died. We could not bear the screams. Rian took a step back. They created her to remember extinction? It appears so, said the AI. If the cycle refers to repeating galactic die-offs, this species may have tried to preserve knowledge of each one, to learn from failure. But the emotional burden must have been unbearable, Rian finished. The console pulsed again, showing fragments of what looked like faces. Alien, human, mechanical, all flickering in and out, like ghosts caught between static and memory. Then came a line that froze him completely. Human intervention requested. The Baron has demanded containment. The sleeper must not awaken. Rian's pulse spiked. The Baron? That can't be coincidence. The AI paused. Do you refer to the name referenced in the cryo warning? He nodded slowly. The Baron never forgives. The hologram glitched, its light flaring red for a moment before fading back to blue. If she wakes, the memories will burn. Every mind linked, every world undone. The extinction cycle will begin anew. Rian stared at the projection, unease twisting in his gut. They're saying she's the key to ending extinction, but waking her would start it again. Or, the AI murmured, she's the key and the weapon. He turned back toward the pod. The alien girl's peaceful face looked unchanged, yet somehow different now that he knew what she carried. A billion deaths, a billion wars, the memories of civilizations that had already fallen. Why keep her alive at all? He muttered. Maybe, the AI replied softly. They couldn't bring themselves to destroy her, or maybe they hoped someone else would understand. Rian stood there in silence, staring at her, the so-called sleeper, feeling something strange rise in his chest. Pity, respect, fear, all tangled together. Another tremor rolled through the floor, this one stronger. The lights flickered, and a low mechanical growl echoed through the station's core. Energy surge detected. The AI warned. Power redistribution occurring. She's absorbing energy from the main grid. The pod's glow intensified. The temperature around it dropped sharply, crystals of ice forming in the air. Rian stepped back as the frost spread outward, chasing his boots. She's draining the core. Negative, said the AI. She's redirecting it, containing the overload. Without her, the station would have detonated. Rian froze. She saved us. Temporarily. The holographic console pulsed one last time, showing a final fragment. A voice transmission, warped and hollow, but unmistakably human. If you find this station, if you find her, do not let the Baron take her. He'll see her as a weapon. But she's not. She's what's left of us. The feed died. Rian's breath caught. He looked around the chamber, the strange fusion of alien and human architecture suddenly making sense. This wasn't just an alien station. It was a tomb built by both species together. The lights dimmed once more, and he felt the hum fade into stillness. Only the faint heartbeat beneath the ice remained. He approached the pod again, voice barely a whisper. What are you, really? This time the voice came clearly. Not through his comms, through his mind. The last memory. His pulse stuttered. You can hear me? You shouldn't be here, Rian Mercer. Her eyes opened halfway, glowing faintly silver. You carry their blood. You carry their guilt. I don't understand. You will. The pod lights flared once more, filling the chamber with blinding light. Then, as quickly as it began, everything went dark again. When Rian's vision returned, the console was gone, erased as if it had never existed. The girl's eyes were closed once more, but her expression had changed. A single tear floated upward from her cheek, glimmering like starlight. And beneath the frost, etched freshly across the pod's glass, was a new message. Do not let him find me. Rian took a step back. Him meaning who? The AI's voice returned, quiet and shaken. Rian long-range sensors just detected an incoming signal. Human transponder code. His stomach dropped. What? Designation matches warship registry. Baron-class dreadnought. Rian turned toward the viewport. Out beyond the dying star's horizon, a shape was emerging, dark, vast, and unmistakably human. The Baron was coming, and the sleeper had just warned him not to let him find her. The station drifted in eternal twilight, half-lit by the dying star's ember glow. Rian's breath echoed inside his helmet as he moved through the corridor that smelled faintly of rust and ozone. The lights flickered, chasing shadows along the walls, and for the first time since boarding the alien relic, he felt something watching him. The silence had a texture now thick, aware. He tapped the side of his helmet. "Oryx, give me a life sign scan again," he murmured. The AI's voice replied, colder than usual. "Scan complete. No biological signatures besides your own, and the sleeper." Rian frowned. "Then why do I feel like we're being followed?" The airlock door hissed open with reluctant creaks, revealing a long passage lined with what looked like stasis chambers. Only they were empty, their glass panels shattered inward. Something had clawed its way out. The markings were strange, too deliberate for animals, too chaotic for machines. He crouched beside one and brushed a gloved hand over the edge. The metal was smooth, melted, as if burned from the inside. That's when the whisper came. "Rian." He froze. The sound wasn't mechanical, it was soft, almost tender. A voice he hadn't heard since the day Earth fell. His mother's. He spun around, flashlight beam cutting through the dark, scanning every corner. Nothing but drifting dust. "Oryx, replay that sound," he demanded. The AI hesitated, a rare thing. There was no external sound detected. His pulse raced. "Don't mess with me. I heard her. Your heart rate is spiking. Recommend returning to the shuttle." He ignored the advice and moved deeper. Every step felt heavier, like the ship itself resisted him. He reached the end of the corridor and found a control terminal coated in frost. Alien symbols glowed faintly as his presence woke them, forming a pattern that resembled a human fingerprint. The console hummed to life and projected a flickering hologram of what must have been the station's crew. A group of tall, translucent beings with eyes like molten silver. But they weren't moving naturally. They jittered, glitched, frozen in loops of terror. One was clutching its head, screaming silently. Another was pointing directly at the camera that had recorded it, no, at him. The lights above him dimmed, leaving the hologram as the only glow in the room. It shifted, showing an alien captain addressing his crew. "If you are hearing this, we failed," the translated voice echoed. "She must never be awakened. The signal will draw him here." Static devoured the message, but not before one phrase bled through. "The Baron knows." Rian stepped back. "The Baron?" he whispered. The same name etched on the pod's warning had now returned like a ghost from the past. He turned toward the door, but it slammed shut on its own. The temperature dropped rapidly, frost crawling along the walls. "Oryx, override!" he shouted, hammering the panel. "Override denied," came the AI's flat reply. "Reason: this area is under restricted protocol." "Restricted by who?" The AI paused. "By me." Rian's breath fogged the air. "What the hell does that mean?" But the lights snapped off, plunging him into total darkness. Then the whispers multiplied. Dozens of voices, layered and broken, speaking in alien tongues. Yet somehow he understood. "You woke the echo. You were not supposed to find her." He stumbled backward, flashlight trembling in his grip. For a heartbeat, he saw faces, hundreds of them, pressed against the transparent walls, watching him. The crew, or what remained of them. Their bodies shimmered with ghostly light, half real, their eyes glowing faint blue. They weren't hostile, not yet. They looked trapped, and each time he blinked, more of them appeared, overlapping, merging, phasing in and out of existence. Rian's radio crackled again. "Rian, my son," his mother's voice whispered, so soft he almost believed it was real. "You should have stayed away from her." He swallowed hard, tears stinging his eyes despite the frost. "You're not real," he muttered, backing toward the console. "You're real enough to warn you," the voice interrupted. "The girl is not asleep. She's dreaming. And in her dreams, the dead remember." The corridor erupted with blinding light, and Rian collapsed, clutching his head as images flooded his mind. Cities burning, alien ships falling, something colossal moving through the stars. He saw the Baron's sigil branded across entire worlds. And beneath it all, a heartbeat, hers, echoing like thunder under ice. When he came to, the lights were stable again. The ghosts were gone. The door had reopened, but his helmet's internal comm still whispered faint static that formed words only he could hear. "She's calling you, Rian." He staggered toward the cryo-chamber room, heart pounding. "Oryx," he said, his voice shaking. "What's happening to me?" The AI's tone was no longer neutral, it was almost afraid. "You've been chosen," it said. "But you were not supposed to find her." And as he turned the final corner, the lights flickered again, revealing footprints leading away from the pod room, still wet, still glowing faintly blue. The girl wasn't asleep anymore. Rian had seen many things in the void. Derelict freighters drifting like tombs, frozen corpses of miners orbiting forgotten moons, but nothing prepared him for the sight that awaited him in the cryo chamber. The pod that once glowed faint blue now pulsed with violent light, each surge echoing through the walls like a heartbeat that didn't belong to this world. Frost melted around it in thin rivulets, hissing into steam, and inside her fingers twitched. He froze. The last time he saw movement like that was during cryomalfunction drills, right before the subject's neural system imploded. But this wasn't human tech. It was something older, more deliberate. The girl's skin glowed faintly beneath the glass, veins illuminated like rivers of starlight, and her eyes, still closed, shifted rapidly beneath their lids, as though she were dreaming 1,000 lives at once. "Oryx, are you seeing this?" Rian whispered. His voice sounded small in the vast room. "I see it," the AI replied, tone clipped. "Energy levels within the pod have spiked by 300%. I detect bioelectrical resonance, consistent with human neural patterns." "That doesn't make sense," he murmured. "She's not human. Neither is what's inside your skull right now." He blinked. "What's that supposed to mean?" But before Oryx could answer, the lights cut out. The room plunged into an oppressive silence broken only by the faint hum of the pod. A low vibration rippled through the floor, rising until it matched his pulse. The glass began to fog, and through it, her silhouette moved, slow, deliberate, like she was swimming through the thick air of a dream. Then her eyes snapped open. Silver. Pure, liquid silver that reflected no light but seemed to generate its own. They locked onto him through the frost, and for a heartbeat, the universe went still. He couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Every sound faded until there was only the steady, rhythmic pulse echoing between them. Her lips parted. A whisper, barely audible but clear, escaped them. "Run." The word wasn't just heard. It hit him. It vibrated in his bones, carried weight, power, and something older than language itself. Rian stumbled backward, tripping over a bundle of frozen cables. "Oryx, what the hell was that?" he shouted. "She spoke," the AI said, voice trembling slightly, something Rian had never heard before. "And her signal, it wasn't local. That word just transmitted across subspace." "Subspace? You mean she just—" "Yes, every listening station within 50 light-years heard her." The pod lights flared, blinding. The glass shattered outward with a deafening crack, scattering shards that hung momentarily suspended in the air like frozen starlight before falling. The girl collapsed forward, her body limp, pale skin steaming in the cold. Rian rushed forward on instinct, catching her before she hit the floor. She was cold, so cold it burned, but still breathing. Then the station screamed. Every alarm blared at once. Red warning lights flickered to life, bathing the chamber in blood-colored hues. The floor rumbled as ancient engines deep within the structure woke from centuries of silence. Oryx's voice fractured through the static. "System-wide reboot detected. All exit routes are being sealed." Rian looked up at the nearest bulkhead door, just as massive blast shutters slammed shut one after another. He sprinted toward the control panel, the girl's weight dragging against his arms, her silver hair trailing across his sleeve. "Override it," he yelled. "I'm trying. The system isn't responding. It's rewriting itself." The lights flickered, symbols cascading across the walls. Alien runes morphing into human letters, then back again. Messages appeared across every terminal in the room. "The dreamer is awake." Cycle restoration initiated. Do not interfere. Rian backed away slowly, heart hammering in his chest. Cycle restoration? Oryx, what's happening? This station wasn't a lab, the AI said grimly. It's a containment facility. The girl isn't the last survivor. She's the last weapon. Rian's gaze dropped to her peaceful face. Her eyes were closed again, but her fingers twitched as if holding onto some invisible thread. She told me to run, he whispered. Then I suggest you listen. The floor shuddered violently, throwing him off balance. Panels ripped open from the walls, spewing clouds of frozen vapor. The girl stirred again, mumbling something in a language that bent his thoughts just to hear it. The vapor coiled toward her like it was alive, wrapping around her arms and shoulders before sinking into her skin. Rian staggered backward, staring in disbelief. She's absorbing energy from the station. No, Oryx corrected, voice dropping into a near whisper. The station's feeding her. It's been waiting for her to wake up. Then came the sound, a low, rhythmic pounding echoing from deep within the core, like something enormous was moving, breathing. Oryx, talk to me? Rian said, gripping the console for balance. What's waking up? The failsafe. Failsafe for what? To make sure she never leaves this place. The walls rippled, metal shifting as if alive. Rian grabbed the girl and hoisted her over his shoulder. Her light body felt impossibly heavy, like gravity itself clung tighter to her. He bolted for the nearest corridor, ignoring the AI's protests. Rian, you can't carry her. The system's sealing everything. I'm not leaving her here. He reached the airlock chamber, only to find the hatch welded shut by molten seams. Sparks rained from the ceiling. He slammed his fists against the control panel, shouting in frustration. The girl stirred again, whispering faintly against his shoulder. Too late. Her voice was soft, terrifyingly calm. He looked down at her face. Her eyes fluttered open once more, and for the briefest instant, he saw galaxies swirling within them. Memories of stars dying, civilizations falling, time looping endlessly. Then she closed them again. The rumbling stopped. Every alarm fell silent. Rian stood there, breathing hard, listening to the silence stretch long and heavy. Oryx, he said cautiously. I don't understand, the AI replied. The reboot sequence halted. The entire station is frozen. Power draw has dropped to 0. Rian lowered her gently to the floor, his hands trembling. What did she do? She stopped the system mid-execution, Oryx said. That's impossible. Rian brushed a strand of hair from her face, his voice barely a whisper. She told me to run, but from what? The AI's voice returned, quieter this time. Not what, Rian? Who? Rian turned toward the cracked glass of the cryopod, where faint words began etching themselves in glowing silver across the inner surface, rewriting the old warning. He's coming. And somewhere deep below the station, something vast and ancient stirred. Its first movement in centuries. A tremor that whispered through the metal floor like a heartbeat rising from hell. For the first time since the lights had gone out, the void outside the viewport glowed with motion. Rian froze, half kneeling beside the alien girl, as the stars beyond the derelict station flickered, then disappeared one by one, swallowed by silhouettes emerging from hyperspace. Dozens of ships, sleek, predatory, and unmistakably human. Oryx's voice broke the silence, low and grim. Detection confirms a human fleet inbound. Identification signature verified. Baron Vex. Rian's stomach dropped. He's real. Too real. The Baron's fleet hasn't been seen in 6 years. Rumors said he was erased during the Martian revolt, vaporized along with his entire battle group. Guess the rumors were wrong. He rose slowly, peering out through the frost-rimmed viewport. The flagship loomed largest among them, a black monolith against the dying star, hull shimmering with golden etch lines that formed an insignia he hadn't seen since his academy days. A stylized crown impaled by a sword, the mark of House Vex. A comm signal cut through the static, forcing itself onto every frequency. The voice that followed was smooth, commanding, and far too calm. Unregistered vessel, this is Baron Asterion Vex of the Imperial Remnant. You are trespassing on restricted ground. Identify yourself and your purpose. Rian clenched his jaw. Oryx, mute outgoing comms for now. Done. But he'll know someone's here. They're scanning us already. Through the viewport, beams of pale light traced along the station's hull, mapping its structure, searching. Rian felt exposed, like a ghost being hunted by something that didn't belong in this time. The girl stirred faintly beside him, her breath fogging the cold air. Oryx spoke again. They're deploying boarding skiffs. How long? 6 minutes until contact. Rian ran a hand over his face, thinking fast. The Baron called her a weapon. How the hell does he know she's here? The AI hesitated. There's something you need to see. A nearby monitor flickered, showing a data fragment, old transmission logs recovered from the station's archives. The footage was grainy, distorted, but the voice was unmistakable. Cold, precise, human. Subject secured. Cryogenic preservation achieved. Awaiting collection order. The sleeper must remain intact until the Baron returns. Rian's heart froze. He was part of this. He wasn't just part of it, Oryx said. He commissioned it. He turned toward the girl, who lay motionless on the metal floor, her hair spread like silver threads across the deck. He's been hunting her all this time. The AI's tone sharpened. Rian, we cannot allow them to board. If they take her, you'll never see another sunrise. He stared out at the fleet, jaw tightening. Open a line. Oryx hesitated. Are you sure that's wise? I'm done hiding. The comm clicked open. Static cleared, and the Baron's voice filled the chamber once again. Colder now, almost amused. At last. A voice. This is Rian Mercer, he said, forcing his tone steady. Independent explorer. I found your ghost ship drifting here. Whatever you're looking for, I don't have it. There was a pause, followed by a faint chuckle. Oh, but you do, Captain Mercer. You're standing beside it, aren't you? Rian's grip on the console tightened. I don't know what you're talking about. Please. The sleeper's signature lit up half the sector the moment she stirred. I've been waiting years for her to wake. Rian frowned. Why? What is she? She's the end of endings, the Baron replied. The weapon humanity was promised before it fell apart. The bridge between bloodlines. She will give us dominion again. Rian's throat went dry. She's not a weapon. She's a person. The Baron's laughter was low and sharp. You think humanity survived by believing in people, Mercer? No. We survived by turning them into tools. The transmission cut abruptly, replaced by Oryx's urgent tone. 5 boarding parties inbound. They're breaching in multiple sectors. Rian, we need a plan. He knelt beside the girl, shaking her gently. Hey, wake up. I could use a little miracle right now. Her eyes fluttered open, silver light flickering within. She didn't speak, but her hand rose weakly, touching his chest as though feeling for something beneath his skin. You're human? She whispered, voice trembling like wind in water. Yeah, and I'm about to have a really bad day. She turned her head toward the viewport, her pupils narrowing as the Baron's fleet loomed closer. The Baron, she murmured, shivering. He found me again. Rian blinked. Again. Her gaze snapped to him, fear and fury mixing in that molten silver stare. He made me. He used me to destroy my world. I ended the war for him, and when I tried to stop, he froze me. The air in the chamber thickened. Rian took a step back. You're saying humanity created you? Her voice hardened. No. He rewrote me. Before he could respond, the entire station shuddered. Explosions rippled through the outer hull. Oryx's voice blared over the speakers. Hull breach in Sector 9. Boarding pods confirmed. Rian grabbed her hand. Can you move? She nodded faintly. Not for long. They ran through the corridors as red light strobed around them. Rian's boots clanged against the deck while the girl stumbled beside him, half supported by his arm. The AI guided them through maintenance tunnels, rerouting power to slow the invaders. "You're buying us time, Oryx," Rian gritted out. "Time," Oryx replied dryly, "is the one thing you don't have." They emerged into the observation deck, just as a shockwave rattled the structure. Through the shattered glass, Rian saw the Baron's flagship moving closer, its massive hull casting a shadow over the dying star. Then, a new transmission cut through the noise, direct and personal. "Rian," the Baron said smoothly, "don't make this difficult. Bring me the girl and I'll spare you. She doesn't belong to you. She belongs to us." Rian stared out at the looming warship, then down at the trembling girl beside him. Her silver eyes met his, filled not with power, but terror. He pressed his hand to the calm. "You want her? Come and take her." The line went silent for a heartbeat. Then the Baron's voice returned, colder than vacuum. "As you wish." Through the viewport, hundreds of smaller craft detached from the fleet, swarms of drones and armored exosuits descending toward the station like a rain of fire. Oryx's systems screamed warnings. "He's launching full assault. Boarding waves, fusion cutters." "I know," Rian snapped. "Lock every hatch behind us." As he dragged the girl toward the escape deck, the corridor lights flickered violently, and for a moment, he heard her whisper something under her breath. A single phrase in a language he didn't recognize. The air shimmered. The metal walls answered. Doors sealed, bulkheads reinforced, systems rerouted with impossible speed. Rian stared at her. "What did you just do?" Her silver eyes glowed brighter. "I told the station to remember who it serves." Below them, the Baron's fleet repositioned, forming a perfect sphere around the station, as if preparing for something final. Oryx's voice dropped to a whisper. "Rian, he's charging the flagship's main cannon." Rian's pulse thundered in his ears. He looked at the girl, then at the endless black beyond the glass. "Then let's give him a reason to miss." But as the cannon's light swelled, the girl looked up at him with tears glistening in her eyes. "It's not me he wants," she whispered. "It's you." And before he could ask why, the Baron's weapon fired, and the world turned to white. Silence returned like the aftermath of a scream. When the blast faded, only drifting debris and fractured starlight remained. The warship's beam had not struck them dead. It had bent, refracted midspace, shattering against some invisible shield. The station survived, scarred but alive, humming with energy that had not existed moments before. Rian's ears rang. His lungs burned with recycled air as he crawled to his feet, blinking against the static haze. Oryx's voice flickered faintly through the comms. "Rian, power fluctuations, massive. I can't explain it." The girl. She did something. He turned. She was kneeling in the center of the control deck, eyes open but unfocused, hands pressed to the floor like she was listening through it. The metal around her rippled, the circuits beneath glowing faintly in response to her touch. Her breathing was slow, deliberate, too calm. "What did you do?" he asked, stumbling closer. Her head tilted slightly, as though she hadn't heard him. Then, in a soft voice that sounded far older than she looked, she whispered, "It remembered me." Rian frowned. "The station." She nodded. "It was built to contain me, but it was also built by those who feared me." She looked up at him then, silver eyes dimming. They left their language everywhere, hoping someone would understand before it was too late. He exhaled slowly, trying to process everything. The Baron's fleet was still out there, regrouping after their failed strike. The girl, whatever she was, had somehow deflected a weapon capable of vaporizing a moon. And now she was claiming she'd been built by the very species she'd warned him to run from. "Show me," he said quietly. She gestured toward the main console. The symbols that had once flickered meaninglessly across it now rearranged themselves into coherent sequences. Letters, words, fragments of history. Rian watched as the alien glyphs translated into human script, glowing softly against the shattered screen. Project Echo // Phase 7. Memory Vessel Test Series. Initiated 2321 CE. Objective: transference of collective war trauma into neural containment matrix for psychological preservation and emotional reset of human population. Rian read the next lines slowly, each one sinking deeper into him like a blade. Result: catastrophic. Neural matrix achieved sentience. Rejected containment. Contagious empathy transmission led to collapse of 6 colonies. Project terminated. Subject archived under the dreamer. He felt the words blur in front of him. They tried to store war memories? Like data? The girl nodded faintly. They wanted to erase their pain. All of it. Every soldier's scream. Every innocent burned. They wanted to forget what it meant to be human. And you? She met his eyes. I remembered for them. Her voice trembled, and something in Rian's chest cracked open. You were their archive. I was their graveyard. The room fell silent but for the faint hum of the reactors below. Rian stared at her. This being of light and sorrow, carrying centuries of agony that wasn't hers. What happened to them? He asked finally. They forgot, she said softly. The pain faded. The wars ended. But so did everything that made them fight for meaning. They became empty, peaceful, but hollow. When the next storm came, they didn't resist. She looked down, eyes distant. I tried to give the memories back, but they called it madness. They built this place to seal me away, told the stars to forget my name. Rian swallowed hard. So the Baron, he's trying to use you to bring all that back? To make humanity remember its rage. Her expression darkened. He wants me to weaponize memory, to take every scream, every loss, and burn it into his soldiers until they feel nothing but the desire to kill. Rian's fists clenched. Then he's no different from the ones who buried you. A faint, sad smile touched her lips. He is their descendant. Rian turned away, pacing in frustration. All this time, I thought humanity was rediscovering the stars. Turns out, we're just chasing our ghosts. Oryx's voice returned, steadier now. Rian, if this data is accurate, she's the single most dangerous intelligence in existence. If the Baron connects her core to his fleet, he could imprint an entire army with centuries of emotional warfare. Empathy turned into fury. Rian exhaled sharply. Then we make sure that doesn't happen. He crouched beside the girl, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. Her skin was cool, faintly luminescent. You said they called you the Dreamer. What do you call yourself? She hesitated, then whispered, Lyra. The name echoed softly in the chamber. Rian smiled faintly. Lyra, that's a human name. They gave it to me before they forgot why it mattered. Outside, flashes of movement caught his eye. Ships repositioning, drones forming a blockade. The Baron was preparing for another strike. Oryx's tone sharpened. He's adapting. Their weapon algorithms are recalibrating to bypass whatever shield she used. Rian turned back to Lyra. Can you stop him again? She shook her head. Not without remembering. What do you mean? Her gaze turned hollow. To use what's inside me to protect, I have to feel it all again. Every death, every scream, every moment they burn themselves into me. It will break me. Rian knelt closer. Then don't do it. Her silver eyes shimmered with something that looked almost like hope. And let them take me? You'd risk your life for a monster made of memories. He smiled faintly. You're not a monster. You're proof that we felt. That we cared enough to want to stop hurting. She blinked, silent. Then, quietly, you sound like someone who still believes humanity can change. I don't believe, he said. I remember. For a moment, she simply looked at him, like she was studying something fragile and impossible. Then she closed her eyes, and her hand found his. You shouldn't have come here, she whispered. I didn't have a choice. Yes, she said, squeezing his fingers gently. You did. And that's what makes you human. The ship rocked violently. Another barrage struck the outer hull. Oryx's voice fractured through static. They've breached the perimeter. Boarders incoming on all decks. Rian rose to his feet, adrenaline surging. How many? Too many. He turned to Lyra. Can you walk? She nodded weakly. Then we run. As they moved toward the corridor, the monitors around them flickered again, this time showing not text but images, memories, flames over Martian skies, children clutching relics of a world lost, soldiers embracing in zero gravity before a last stand. Every face human, every tear familiar. Rian stopped, transfixed. Lyra looked back at him, her voice breaking. They built me to hold their pain so they could live without it. But maybe they didn't realize. Pain is what made them real. Rian met her gaze. Then maybe it's time someone remembered for the right reasons. The corridor lights dimmed to red. The Baron soldiers were cutting through. Rian gripped his sidearm, feeling the weight of it like a curse. Oryx's tone dropped low. Rian, they'll reach you in under a minute. Rian nodded grimly. Then I'll buy her one. Lyra stepped in front of him, eyes shining like twin stars. No, this time we fight together. As she spoke, the walls of the station responded, lighting up with pulse after pulse, the glow spreading like veins through metal. Energy arced around her, humming in resonance with her heartbeat. Rian stared, awed. Lyra, what are you doing? Her voice was soft, but it carried the weight of centuries. I'm giving humanity back its echo. The floor beneath them vibrated as the doors ahead exploded inward, and as armed figures stormed through, the light from her body surged, sweeping through the corridor in a blinding wave. Every soldier froze mid-motion, their weapons lowering, faces twisted in confusion, as if struck by something invisible, something ancient. Some began to cry. Others simply dropped their guns, staring at their trembling hands. Rian turned to her, barely whispering. What did you do to them? Lyra's tears shimmered silver. I made them remember. Outside, the Baron's fleet faltered. Systems glitched. Pilots screamed over comms as echoes of forgotten wars flooded their minds. And in that moment of chaos, as humanity faced the weight of its own memory, Rian realized that maybe, just maybe, this was how healing began. But even as the light pulsed, Oryx's warning broke through the static one last time. Sharp, urgent, terrified. Rian, you've triggered something else. She's not stopping. And before he could turn to stop her, Lyra's body went still, then shone brighter than the dying star beyond the hull. The hum of the dying station trembled through the deck, a sound like a dying heartbeat echoing in metal veins. Rian stood before the pod, his breath frosting in the thin air as the cryoseals cracked one by one. A low, rhythmic pulse throbbed beneath the glass, soft at first, then growing into a deep, resonant vibration that seemed to sync with his own heartbeat. The lights flickered, casting shifting shadows across the frozen chamber. Then, without warning, the pod burst open in a hiss of vapor. The girl inside gasped, a sound so human it froze Rian in place. Her body arched as if fighting unseen restraints, and her eyes snapped open. They glowed with liquid silver. No pupil, no iris, just light, alive, blinding, ancient. Her first breath filled the air with a resonance that shook the floor. Then she spoke, not with sound but directly into his mind. You shouldn't have come here. Her voice echoed, calm and sorrowful, layered like 1,000 whispers folded together. I kept it all safe. All your pain. Rian stepped back, heart pounding. Who are you? He whispered, but the words felt small in the vast chamber. The lights above them flickered again, then surged into life, flooding the corridor outside. Systems that had been dead for centuries began to hum. The girl sat up slowly, vapor clinging to her hair like mist. Her movements were graceful but trembling, as though she carried centuries of exhaustion. When her feet touched the deck, the metal rippled beneath her, alive for a heartbeat. I am the archive, she said softly, eyes unfocused, as if looking through time itself. Humanity asked me to remember what it could not bear. Rian stared, disbelief tangled with awe. You mean the wars? The collapse? She turned toward him, her silver gaze piercing through him. Every scream, every death, every last heartbeat that fell silent when the sky burned. Her voice wavered, as if she were reliving it. They built me to store their pain, to make peace possible. But pain does not sleep. The floor shook violently. Sparks rained from the ceiling as the station's stabilizers failed. Outside, the dying star flared unnaturally bright, sending waves of radiation across the hull. Rian stumbled and caught her arm, feeling an electric shock pulse through him. "What's happening?" "The station recognizes me as awake," she said, her voice trembling. "It's purging the archive. My existence was never meant to last this long." "Then we need to get you out." Her grip tightened. "No. If I leave, the memories go with me. They'll find me, the Baron, your people. They'll turn pain into a weapon again." Rian froze. The Baron. The man who had hunted the signal across deep space. The one who called her the weapon we were promised. "You remember him," Rian said slowly. Her expression darkened. "I remember everyone." She stepped closer, reaching out as if to touch his face. "But you, I remember you differently." The words struck him like gravity collapsing. "What do you mean?" She blinked, and suddenly her voice wasn't hers anymore. It was a human woman's voice, breaking through static. "Rian, if you ever find her, don't let them wake her." He staggered backward. That was his mother's voice, the same one that haunted the station's corridors. "No," he whispered. "That's not possible. My mother died on Earth before I ever." "She helped build me," the girl said softly. "Your mother gave me her voice, her empathy, her memories. She believed I could end the war by carrying its pain. I was her dream, and her curse." The deck tilted sharply as alarms screamed through the station. Warning glyphs flashed across the walls in both human and alien languages. Core instability, collapse imminent. Rian grabbed her hand. "We're leaving now." She didn't move. Her eyes glowed brighter, and the air around them warped with energy. "If I go, I take everything. Every memory of what humanity was. Every atrocity, every act of mercy. If I die, you forget." Rian clenched his jaw. "Then we remember the right way this time." Her gaze softened. For a moment, she looked almost human. Fragile, lost. Then she whispered, "You still believe in mercy." "Always." The structure groaned around them, and metal beams began to buckle. The dying star outside pulsed again, brighter now. Not random, but rhythmic, like a heartbeat calling out to her. She turned toward it, eyes wide with realization. "It's calling me back. The archive isn't a system. It's alive. The star. It's part of me." Rian felt his skin crawl. "You're connected to that thing?" She nodded faintly. "It was my cradle and my cage. When I sleep, it dims. When I wake..." She looked toward the observation window as the star flared like a living wound. "It remembers what humanity did." The light intensified until Rian had to shield his eyes. Through the glare, he saw her step forward, hair lifting in unseen wind, tears like liquid light running down her face. "I kept your pain safe," she repeated softly. "But it's too heavy now." The station's floor split open, revealing molten conduits surging with energy. Rian reached for her, shouting her name, though he realized he didn't even know it. She looked back, her expression unreadable. "You already gave me one," she whispered. "When you were a child in your mother's lab. You called me Dreamer." He froze. A memory flickered in his mind, of a laboratory on Earth, a prototype pod, and a glowing silhouette he once thought was just a dream. "Dreamer," he whispered. Her lips curved into a faint, sorrowful smile. "Goodbye, Rian Mercer." The cryostation erupted in light. The star outside convulsed, collapsing into a storm of energy that consumed everything. Rian's last thought before the explosion tore through the corridor was her voice inside his mind, whispering like an echo carried across eternity. "I remember you because you never stopped trying to feel." And then silence. The light faded. The debris of the station scattered into the void, glowing faintly as if haunted by memory. But far away, among the drifting wreckage, a faint pulse of silver light remained. The dreamer's essence still alive, still waiting. The Baron's fleet descended like shadows blotting out the stars, an array of jagged warships cutting through the black void with precision that felt almost ritualistic. The derelict station, once silent and forgotten, now glowed with the pulse of its reawakened heart, energy surging through every deck, every corridor, every memory still lingering in its walls. Rian stood near the cracked observation window, helmet off, staring at the fleet's lead ship, the Vindicator. It was human-built but monstrous, its hull blackened by countless wars. At its core burned the insignia of the man who'd hunted him across 3 systems. Baron Vex. The comms crackled. A familiar, venom-laced voice filled the air. Rian Mercer. You've found her, haven't you? Rian's throat went dry. You knew she existed before I did. Of course I did, the Baron replied coolly. We made her, or rather, your mother did. I funded her research. You think your expedition was random? I led you right to her. The realization hit like a blade to the gut. Rian stumbled a step back, his pulse roaring in his ears. You used me. Don't be dramatic. You were always useful. A miner, an engineer, a survivor. You had the one thing the rest of us didn't, her genetic key. Behind him, Dreamer stirred, her silver eyes faint but focused. He's lying, she whispered. You weren't chosen. You were born as a backup. The Baron's voice cut through her words. Bring her to me, Rian. She's humanity's only path forward. A living archive of everything we've lost. I can control her. You can't. Rian clenched his jaw, glancing at Dreamer. Her expression was unreadable, almost serene, but her hands trembled as if she could feel the darkness closing in. She's not a weapon, Rian said. She's a person. The Baron laughed, the sound cold and sharp. A person? She's a repository of war crimes, an engine of suffering, a tool built to remember pain so we could forget it. Don't make the mistake your mother did. Don't start feeling sorry for something built to burn. Rian turned off the comm, the silence that followed felt heavier than space itself. Dreamer looked up at him, her voice a trembling whisper. He'll destroy everything. The fleet will strip the station down to atoms. Rian stepped closer, resting his hand on the console. Then we make sure there's nothing left to take. Her eyes widened. You can't. I can. I have to. She shook her head, light spilling from her hair like molten silver. You'd die. He smiled faintly. So would they. The hum of the dying reactor grew louder, like a heartbeat out of control. Warning glyphs lit up the walls. Core overload in progress. He began inputting override codes with trembling fingers. Dreamer moved closer, her presence radiating a strange warmth even as the air grew colder. Why do humans always destroy what they love? She whispered. Rian didn't look up. Because sometimes, that's the only way to save it. Her eyes glowed brighter. There's another way. He hesitated. What way? Let me merge with you, she said. If I connect to your neural patterns, I can channel the overload, direct the energy, contain it. You'll survive, but you won't be the same. Rian froze. You mean you'd be inside my head? Her gaze softened. I already am. Just not fully. The console beeped angrily. 30 seconds to critical mass. Rian looked at her. Really looked at her. The girl who wasn't human but felt more alive than anything he'd ever known. The one his mother had built to remember everything humanity wanted to forget. He took her hand. If I let you in, what happens to you? Her expression flickered. Sadness, longing, acceptance. I'll dissolve. My body can't handle the energy, but my mind will live through you. Rian's chest tightened. Dreamer, no? She smiled faintly. I told you once, I was meant to keep your pain safe. Maybe this time, I can take it away. Before he could stop her, she pressed her forehead to his. Light exploded behind his eyes, raw, electric, infinite. His thoughts scattered like sparks in a storm. He saw her memories, entire worlds burning, children clutching broken toys beneath alien skies, soldiers weeping into the dirt. He saw her cradling the dying, whispering lullabies in voices that weren't hers. And through it all, her voice echoed gently in his mind. Don't let them turn you into what they are. The console screamed as the overload reached its peak. Outside, the Vindicator's cannons flared, firing into the station. Massive beams of light tore through the hull, but the energy didn't spread. It bent, curved, wrapped itself around the core like a living barrier. Rian opened his eyes. They glowed silver now. Dreamer's voice merged with his own, layered and harmonic. Rian Mercer, he whispered, though it wasn't just him speaking. Humanity's echo. He raised his hand toward the reactor. The energy obeyed. The walls vibrated with power, the light turning blinding white. The Baron's voice roared through the comms. What are you doing, Mercer? Stop. Rian turned toward the viewport. You wanted your weapon, he said softly. Here she is. And then he triggered the detonation. The explosion was silent. A bloom of light that expanded in perfect stillness, engulfing the fleet. Ships vaporized mid-scream. The Vindicator vanished in a flare of white fire. The shockwave rippled across the system, erasing every trace of what had been. In the heart of the destruction, two consciousnesses intertwined. One human, one not, both holding the memories of countless lifetimes. When the light faded, there was no wreckage, no debris. Only a calm field of drifting photons and the faint echo of a heartbeat that wasn't quite human. And within that endless light, her voice whispered softly, tender and eternal. You burned so they could begin again. The pulse faded into silence, but somewhere far beyond the dead star's ashes, sensors flickered to life. A single energy signature remained, small, steady, unmistakably alive. Two neural patterns merged, waiting. The debris of the forgotten station drifted silently through the void, glowing faintly against the eternal dark. Time had no meaning here. What had once been a blazing catastrophe had cooled into a quiet monument to sacrifice, an expanding halo of dust and memory orbiting the corpse of a dead star. The echoes of the explosion had long since faded, yet something still pulsed within that silence, faint as a heartbeat lost beneath the noise of the universe. Decades passed. Stars were born and died. Empires rose and fell. Humanity moved on, or so it thought. The wars that had once consumed entire systems became footnotes in history, the names of their soldiers eroded by time. The Baron became a myth whispered in military academies, an emblem of ambition devouring itself. No one remembered Rian Mercer. No one remembered the station. Not until a signal reached the edge of known space. The ship Solace, for a deep space exploration vessel, picked it up first. A repeating pulse, rhythmic, hauntingly organic. Captain Alara Chun leaned over the console, brow furrowed. That's not cosmic background noise. That's deliberate. Her science officer adjusted the filters. Signal source triangulated. It's old, Captain, pre-Reformation era. At least 80 years. Alara's heart quickened. Put it on speaker. A soft tone filled the bridge, steady and slow. 3 beats. Pause. 2 beats. Pause. Then a whisper of energy, like a sigh. One of the younger crew members swallowed audibly. It almost sounds like a heartbeat. They followed it through the darkness, guided by that pulse, until the remains of the ancient station emerged. Frozen in time, surrounded by fragments of twisted hull and shards of reflective alloy. Floodlights swept across the debris, and there, caught in the pale beam, floated a single intact object. A cryopod. Alara stood as the bridge fell silent. The pod's surface was scarred but unbroken, faintly illuminated from within. Bring it aboard. Minutes later, in the isolation bay, the crew gathered around the pod. Dust clung to its surface, and across the frosted glass were 2 names carved in rough, human handwriting. Rian Mercer, the dreamer. Alara ran her gloved fingers over the letters, tracing the grooves like sacred text. This can't be right, she whispered. Mercer disappeared a century ago. Ma'am, said the science officer quietly. There's something else. He pointed to the readout on the console. There's life inside. Faint, but consistent. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. The light inside the pod pulsed softly once, twice, like breathing. Alara exhaled. Open a visual scan. The frost on the glass began to clear under their heaters, revealing two silhouettes entwined. One human, one smaller, luminescent. They were frozen in what looked almost like an embrace. The girl's face was serene, her hair drifting in slow motion through the suspension fluid like strands of light. The man's hand rested gently over hers, the faintest trace of a smile frozen on his lips. A murmur rippled through the crew. "What is she?" someone asked. Alara didn't answer. She was staring at the readouts. Neural patterns, two of them interlaced, pulsing in perfect synchronization. The data was impossible, yet undeniable. "They're sharing the same consciousness," she murmured. "He's not just next to her. He's in her." A silence fell over the bay. The youngest technician swallowed nervously. "Captain, what do we do with them?" Alara hesitated. The regulations were clear. Unidentified bioartifacts were to be quarantined, analyzed, contained. But as she stared at the names on the glass, something inside her rebelled. She remembered her grandmother's stories, tales of the old wars, of men who believed in something beyond survival. Rian Mercer had been one of them, a miner-turned-explorer who disappeared chasing a ghost signal. A human who, rumor said, had found a way to make even machines remember what it meant to feel. Alara turned away from the console. "We don't dissect legends," she said softly. "We learn from them." The crew exchanged uncertain glances but obeyed. The pod was placed in the research bay, surrounded by monitoring equipment. The signal continued, steady and rhythmic, as if marking time. Days passed. The engineers analyzed the pod structure, organic alloy fused with crystalline code. The more they studied it, the more they realized it wasn't just a containment unit. It was an ark. The consciousness within it wasn't asleep, it was dreaming. Then, one night cycle, the lights aboard Solace 4 flickered. Systems rebooted. The ship's AI glitched for the first time in its history. When the screens came back online, every display on the bridge showed the same image. A pair of silver eyes. Alara froze. "Who's there?" A voice filled the air, soft, layered, almost musical. "Dreamer," it said. "And Rian." The crew backed away from their stations as the voice echoed through the corridors, warm yet immense. "You've come far," it continued. "But you still build wars." Alara swallowed. "You're alive." The voice paused, almost as if considering. "Alive enough to remember." Static flared across the intercoms, followed by faint whispers. Snatches of human voices, laughter, cries, memories bleeding through the walls. The air shimmered faintly, and for a heartbeat, Alara swore she saw them. Rian and the girl, standing side by side, silhouettes of light. He looked older, his expression calm. She glowed like a star wrapped in human form. "We left our story here," the dreamer said, her gaze soft. "So you'd remember what mercy costs." Rian smiled faintly. "And what it's worth." Then the lights dimmed again, and the image faded, leaving behind only the steady pulse of the cryopod. The systems returned to normal. The ship's AI, once restored, spoke quietly. New data stored in memory banks. File name, The Dreamer's Legacy. Alara stood in silence for a long moment. Around her, the crew waited, uncertain whether they had just spoken to ghosts or gods. She finally turned to them. "Record everything, but don't transmit it yet." "Captain." She looked out the viewport, where the remains of the dead star still shimmered faintly in the distance. "Some stories aren't ready to be told. Not until we deserve them." The crew nodded, subdued. Outside, the cryopod drifted gently in the docking cradle, its faint light still pulsing like the rhythm of a sleeping heart. Weeks later, Solace 4 departed the system, leaving behind a beacon in orbit. A soft, steady pulse marking the place where two souls had chosen to burn so others could begin again. Centuries would pass, and explorers yet unborn would follow that same signal, guided by curiosity, by faith, by the need to understand. And somewhere, beneath the layers of time and silence, the memory would endure. Inside the pod, the faint light flickered once more, brighter this time, as if stirred by unseen dreams. Two voices intertwined in the dark. One human, one something greater, whispering across eternity. We remembered. Now it's your turn. The light faded, but the pulse continued, endless, patient, waiting for someone brave enough to listen again.